Good morning, everybody. You're tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Spence.
Hey, man.
What?
Oh, here, wait, I got to get this is better one. That's it. There we go. It'd be Beatnik. Cool guy.
What is that coming off of?
Zoom. Background filters. You can add it. I guess it was part of the last Zoom upgrade because I never really looked at it before. This is a good one. Yeah, 3D glasses.
Them are maturing.
Yeah, I guess. Supposedly they opened up. They let people stay on longer over the holidays.
Look at you.
What? 3D glasses? Yeah.
Are you seeing me 3D now?
I'm seeing everything in 3D now. I can reach out.
All right. Our numbers 919-518-9773. Computers 2K voice on Skype. Gal is with us already. He said he was going to join in a few minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning. And today's show is made possible by VMix Software, DudeInIT.com, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. So, belated Merry Christmas to everybody. Did you get good things? Did Santa come to visit?
He did. We can't get him to leave. He's sleeping on the floor in the living room.
Yeah, we had a nice day yesterday here. Hannah came over, Donna and Katie, and Summer came by. We stayed up until about after midnight, just sitting, talking. It was fun.
I didn't last that long. Everybody left. Everybody was gone about 7. And then we watched some episodes of a British show, and then that was it. And 10 o'clock, I was in bed.
Oh. So, yeah, it was hard to get any kind of news item related to computers this week.
Everybody's on vacation.
I don't know if it's their
What
own
about
vacation. The what?
What about the Kronos Bridge?
Okay, I didn't see anything about that.
Okay. So Kronos is a human resource management system. Punch in, punch out, payroll, shit, that. And it's used by a lot of company, a lot of hospitals, a lot of mass employee corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been hit with ransomware. And it seems like, on one, it crippled the system. So a lot of these hospitals basically had a lot of issues just, letting employees start working.
Mhm.
With them, a lot of hospitals, gas stations, right? Everything across. And now all of this is happening during during the holidays. So reaction was a bit slow to it on top of everything. Um, there's no real fear of information breach like previous big breaches like Target and stuff like that. But this one is hitting like where people are giving help, and it's a big issue. It's a big issue. There's no news yet on how or what because it's early stages. But this happened like a couple of days ago, so that's one of the biggest breach right now.
How many? Did they say how
Uh,
many?
the thing is that a lot of companies are using Kronos, so I don't know right now how many, but they're talking about employees affected. They're talking about hundreds of thousands.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, and I don't know about how it's going to how it's going to be solved, right? If they're gonna lose history of their employment or stuff like that, I don't know if that's the case or not. But like if there's a lot of manual recovery that's going to be needed, where they're gonna survive this without paying the ransom, right? I'm guessing they stopped the ransom attack. The real question is they lost something. I don't know the details. I just know like sprinkles of it. Uh, Heard it from someone who works with this system, and he just mentioned that it didn't work the other day or something, right? And then I started searching. I said there was a huge breach. That's why it didn't work for you.
Hmm.
It's huge. It's like it's all over.
Kronos.
Yeah, Kronos.
Interesting.
This is where I'm glad that I'm not part of the traditional working metasphere of, personnel and all those things, all the documentation, records, and all that stuff. It's like even if you went back and tried to find that stuff today, I don't need it. Don't have to have it. There's nothing I need to show. I saved my social security statement, made a copy of it, so if anything happens, they attack the government, all those records go away. At least I have a piece of paper. It says,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but that piece of paper without the record in the database somewhere.
I made it up. I doubled my payment. Oh, this is what I was getting. So the Webb telescope didn't go up.
What?
Again, it was delayed again. It was supposed to launch on Christmas yesterday.
It's launched.
It has been launched.
I thought it was. I'd say so. I just see delays. Webb telescope due to weather.
I
No,
saw how
video.
they cheered when it finally launched, and
Oh, this is the day before story. Okay, never mind. That
Yeah,
just
yeah.
gets to show you it did actually launch. You're right. Did you
It was
have
supposed
you
to be the
read?
day before, and it launched on Christmas, but it launched.
It did. Good. Okay. I was reading an overview of how they're positioning it, and it brought back memories of science fiction stuff that I read when I was younger. There's something called the Lagrange point, and the
Yeah.
Lagrange point, you know what it is, Gal, right? Yeah, it's a there are 5 or 6, maybe more, of these equilibrium points in gravity between the sun and the earth where you can position something and it just stays there. Because of the pull of the earth and the pull of the sun, it's like a geostationary orbit around the earth, but it's much further out. It's almost 1 million miles out. And that's where this thing is going to sit. because the farther out they get it, the better it'll work because it's a infrared telescope, which looks at heat, obviously. So the closer to a heat source, it's like you didn't want near the Earth. Fascinating stuff. I mean, and what they expect to see, I should say, what they anticipate seeing is just like nothing we've ever seen before. So going back farther, longer, more detail. Probably be what they'll do is they'll use it for the first time. There'll be a giant banner that says "Welcome to welcome to the universe" from the people who've been around for a lot longer than us. You finally built something that could see us. Oh, good stuff. And
Yeah.
let's hope it
No.
doesn't have an optics problem.
Yeah. Well, my first problem, my first concern is it can go further, but is the resolution okay?
Yeah.
Is it
Just
4 megapixel or it's
yeah, that's right. Yeah, what do you do? It's like
yeah. It's
but
blurry.
but it's the amount of image that they can capture because of the number of mirrors compared to the Hubble. Hubble has created incredible views of things, but
Yes.
this is supposed to be. Well, let's hope.
Yeah. This is supposed to be the new. Actually, I mean, me always cheering for the underdog. It'll be interesting to see what the Hubble telescope will still be able to bring in the next 5 to 10 years, while suddenly the lesser, those that didn't have the funds to use the Hubble install that, they'll now have chance to use the Hubble because everybody wants to use the web
Right.
one.
Yeah, they'll have cut rate access.
Yeah.
Special sale. Hubble.
Exactly.
I can buy 5
Uh,
minutes, myself to use it.
I think it would still be a legitimate source.
Oh, of course. It's just a lot more. There's going to be a larger audience that is going to use that, right?
The issue
You
with the
suddenly
Hubble
have-
is servicing it. If it has to be serviced, it's going to be complicated because they used to use they had that last servicing mission before the shuttle was decommissioned because the shuttle was perfect. It had that giant cargo bay where you can load it up with stuff and go up there. And so now to get to the Hubble, they really don't have a vehicle
Oh,
that
they'll
can
just
service it. They're working on it. I mean, they do have some new vehicles that they are developing. I don't know that they're past the concept stage, but like a satellite servicing vehicle that they could go up, they could keep it in space, go up, use it when they need to use it, come back, to do that whole thing. Just get up there with SpaceX and
Yep.
that's a big deal.
Leave it up to Elon. He'll fix it. Yeah.
Did you see they had their 100th successful landing of the Falcon?
No.
That is
Nice.
what?
No,
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't.
amazing. Yeah, that was just. I don't know what the date is here. I have to look. It's recent. It's just in the last couple of days. SpaceX nails 100th Falcon 9 landing, December 23rd. Well, just seeing that happen. I mean, I grew up where old science fiction movies were these rockets landing with their engines coming down. And I was like, we never saw that. And they realized when NASA looked at that, they said, that's just way too expensive. We don't have the control systems that can do this. There's no point in doing it. So we'll do the splashdown method because that's the cheapest way to get into space, safest way. And now that they've got this, it's just. Did you guys watch the documentary about Shatner into space on Blue Origin?
No.
They made a documentary. It's on Amazon about his experience going up in the Blue Origin capsule. Fascinating. That booster, I think the one that they went up, the booster landed. They didn't. The capsule separates and it comes down by parachute. But
Yeah.
incredible. Good
Yep.
stuff. If you have Amazon Prime, it's worth a watch.
So, what is it got?
I said I'll check it out.
Last week we were talking about YouTube TVs losing Disney. Well, they fixed the problem. So it says that YouTube TV's battle with Disney is over almost as soon as it began. The two have struck a deal that restores access to ESPN, FX, and other Disney channels on YouTube's streaming service. So
So the
they,
battle was only in the head of the media reporting about the
well,
battle.
I mean, there was a problem because people lost it for a
Problem.
couple of
Yeah.
days,
The
but that's
problem
it.
isn't the war.
Yeah. 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 They made a big thing out of nothing,
Exactly.
apparently. This is, negotiates business. Here is an interesting article. Miss Carter is part of a wave of executives and engineers leaving cushy jobs at Google, Amazon, Apple, and other large tech companies, some of which pay millions of dollars in annual compensation, to chase what they see as a once in a generation opportunity. That next big thing is crypto, they said, a catch all designation that includes digital currencies like Bitcoin and products like NFTs that rely on blockchain. Silicon Valley is now awash with stories of people writing seemingly ridiculous crypto investments like Dogecoin, a digital coin based on a dog meme, to life changing wealth. Bitcoin has soared around 60% this year, while Ether, a cryptocurrency tied to Ethereum blockchain, has increased more than fivefold in value. But I mean, it sounds to me like it's the situation of yeah, I'd rather go and chase those birds in the bush, even though I have that one good one in my hand. You have a cushy job that pays you good money, and you are I don't know.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot happening in that world,
Yeah,
and while it's a risk, right? I mean, people take risks and launch startups, right? People
yeah,
take risks, just move to working to the for their own instead of working for. But I don't find anything interesting in it because we don't know where it's going. It might be big and it might crash in everybody's face. I doubt there'll be like a huge crash, like some analysts are predicting. I think we're not. Nothing is balanced yet, and it's going all over the place. People tend to, you know, you usually tend to hear about the people taking the risk. You won't hear about those who say, "Nah, I'm staying here." Right?
true.
So,
But
so
I'm
I don't
thinking,
know how big the noise is, right?
I mean, if I was in this boat and I have a job that pays me a lot of money, but I want to get into crypto and, or I mean, to go into something else, so to speak, I'll do it in parallel. Especially these days with those big techs that they work from home. Do it, have the current job sort of like support you, unless you have money in the bank that you're not worried about. I don't know. It seems like you are giving up something for sure over something that may work out. And that's, I guess that's just me.
No, I think it's mostly that the article is misleading. It's not citing specific data. It's not
Right. It's
giving
not.
give a theory based on very little data or very inadequate data. So
Well,
yeah,
it was interesting. Um, this is news, but it's not uh, happy news kind of. A new report released by Ookla, people that do speed tests, placed the U.S. at the very top of a list of 40 countries in terms of 5G availability. To determine this, Ookla tested to see what percentage of users with 5G devices spent the majority of their time actually on 5G during the third quarter. Under that criteria, the US ranked number 1 with 49.2 availability. But hold on. It's not all good news. The actual download and upload speeds of 5G networks still vary significantly by country, according to the report. Though the US ranked first in availability, its actual download speeds were among the worst of early 5G adopter nations. Ookla placed median 5G download speeds at 93.73 megabits per second in the US, far lower than the UK's 184.2 megabits, and far lower still than South Korea, which led the pack at 492 megabits. The US placed around the same relative position for upload speed as well. And while US wireless customers can take some solace knowing they're on the top of the availability list, the list itself is unimpressive as a whole, especially in relation to the type of coverage necessary for 5G most ambitious promises. So it's available, but it's not the 5G that's supposed how 5G is supposed to work. And that's kind of disappointing.
I
Um working
mean,
Go ahead.
we are now what, year 3 of deployment of 5G?
Depends if you
I
count
wonder,
AT&T's lying about 5G.
not count, of course. So if that's the case, right, then I wonder where did 4G look? What did 4G look like 3 years uh, into releasing the technology in the cell systems? It's like,
It was spotty the way
yeah,
this is. Yeah.
exactly.
It was exactly the same
It,
way. It was a rollout. If people had to upgrade, it was different antennas. There were different, it was a whole different design for 4G because it was a very different system. Plus you had to upgrade all the backhaul to support the speed that you were providing through the wireless. So it was very, very spotty rollout. And then all of a sudden it happened. I mean, it was a lot of money was invested in it. And then it was like a flip the switch and suddenly it was all working better. But
so
it took a while. It
so
took a long time.
okay, so why are other countries so much better?
Well, they have probably a single carrier in some cases. Remember how Europe, why did they have a phone that could go all around Europe with
Mhm.
one GSM? Because GSM was
Oh,
universal. They didn't have different systems. So it could be that there's less carriers. I know it's opened up. It's not controlled as well as like it used to be, where it had to be a government entity. But it could be that. It could be the size of the countries. We are huge, huge territory to service. Whereas in Europe, you've got New England. The size of New England is Europe, so it'd be a lot easier to roll it out.
notice that they're not measuring Europe as Europe, and they're
Yeah,
measuring the US as US.
Yeah.
right? They're measuring specific countries,
Yeah.
uh, versus, so when you're looking at the global deployment, like the national deployment, then yeah, you have a lot of limitations because you have areas where you have nothing.
Yes. Still.
So it's all about
Yeah.
looking at the details. Now look, I've never advocated for 5G. I don't think it's even required, right, for personal use. I do understand that it'll happen. I'm not fighting against it or anything. I'm just saying it's not that important. 4G is excellent for anything you can think of today. And so, and the answer is probably not something like 5G, but something more like Starlink for high bandwidth. So it's nice that technology is keeping on, but start trying to measure it compared to a mature technology. I mean, I wouldn't even call 4G mature. Even 4G is still, right, not widespread enough to be the thing. And we're already talking about 5G. And 5G has its own set of limitations of range. It is very, very short range compared because of the use of
High
high
frequencies.
frequency.
Yeah.
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 So it's where the comparison is unfair because it is not being done to 4G at the beginning of its deployment. That's one. And two, the numbers are misleading because they're not presented properly. So
No, it makes everybody just be skeptical because if you hear so many different things coming out of people, you're like, whoa. Like, did you see the story about how the Dutch Authority on Nuclear Safety came out with an advisory because the people are so afraid of um, some people are afraid of the effects of 5G
Hmm.
that they feel like they need to protect themselves. So they've actually been providing these small devices that are supposed to protect you from 5G by giving you. I'm serious. This is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called. What do they call it here? Um, Quantum Pendant, and it uses radiation that likely comes from thorium, and they use thorium dioxide powder crushed to make this pendant, and it's supposed to provide negative ions to protect you from. It's supposed to do other things too, like protect you from. It makes your food better. I mean, it's all, who knows? It's voodoo stuff, but it is radioactive.
Yeah.
And people are being exposed to radioactivity from this thing, and it's
right, but the
dangerous.
Dutch authority are trying to fight it because people are selling that.
Yeah, they're selling it. They have masks, like a mask to put over your face. They have pendants that you can wear. It's like they got, and they're radioactive. It's incredible. Necklaces, bracelets, even sleep masks. It says all these things can boost your radiation level to an unacceptable, uh, boost it to an unacceptable level. It's amazing.
Well, somebody's making
I
money in
mean,
the
I could be
process.
mean and say, let the anti 5G people wear these as a form of
And they'll be gone.
as a form of natural selection.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
One of the comments in the story is if people are buying such products, there's evidence that science education is not good enough in public schools. Perhaps some. That's pretty funny. And they said the other danger is consuming food where dust particles from these items fall into the food because now you're ingesting a radioactive source. Oh, boy. I feel it's like we're living in the Victorian age, 1890s, when they thought electricity fixed everything. You would clamp electricity to your earlobes to solve your, what I mean, they did these crazy products. Seriously.
Yeah.
You go into a room and you'd hold on to these things and get shocked because it was going to fix your headaches and just, they didn't, and there were every crazy iteration of things about electricity. It was amazing.
What about uranium infused pop?
Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, back in the 40s. Yeah.
That stuff can't be
There, I
undone.
remember watching one of like a scavenger hunt type of reality show where uh, a guy got the opportunity of buying like a case of 12 bottles, they without the content, and putting a Geiger meter next to them, and they still were like loud as hell. Something
Boy.
completely nuts.
It's interesting how there were screams years ago about radiation. I remember when I was a kid, there was an incident where something happened in a country where the radioactive dust was released into the atmosphere. And there was a period where over a month when they were warning people about getting milk from Wisconsin because of radiation in the milk. And this is when I was a kid. This is a long time ago. So back when before they had electricity.
And that was for real?
It was for real. No, it was a real thing. Whether it was really dangerous or not is the question. But there were enough people saying that it could be dangerous back then that they actually advised not to get milk for certain regions of the country.
Fear
Yeah.
is, fear
Yeah.
is really easy to manipulate. So if you tell something, if you are not going to do this, you're going to die, like those people peddling these pendants for anti 5G, right? And there is just all you need is really, really minimal doubt, right? In a person's mind, and very little understanding of how these things work, and you got them hooked.
Yep.
And it's sad, but it's so easy to manipulate, so easy to control, that some people, they believe in it, right? Which is even worse because they heard somewhere, right? They're being led by some sort of fear, and they're peddling it onward. They're passing it forward as they see
Yeah.
it, right?
Mhm.
And making a buck on the way.
Mhm.
And there are those who are completely sinister behind it and say, these people, they'll buy anything. Let's sell it to them.
Well, we
So
have enough of a track record for there being dangerous things that we didn't know about, and then they're banned. So it's like, where do you find a healthy medium? I found an article from 1960 from the New York Times: strontium 90 in milk. St. Louis concerned over high radioactivity count in milk. This was the whole thing. July 31st, 1960. Amazing.
All right. So a few weeks ago, we were talking about the Fisher Price chatter phone, the new one that they developed for more for adults.
It's Bluetooth?
Yeah. Um,
Is it?
what?
I was
oh
going to
yeah,
say this isn't for those people that dress up as babies, is it?
This would actually, you can answer the phone with it. It's Bluetooth to your own phone, to your close by cell phone. As nostalgia goes, the Fisher Price chatter phone doesn't disappoint. The classic retro kids toy was given a modern revamp for the holiday season with a new release for adults, which, unlike the original toy designed for kids, can make and receive calls over Bluetooth using a nearby smartphone. The chatter, despite a working rotary dial and its trademark wobbly eyes that bob up and down when the wheels turn, is less a phone and more like a novelty Bluetooth speaker with a microphone, which activates when the handset is lifted. The chatter
so-
didn't spend long on sale. The phone sold out quickly as the wait lists piled up. But security research in the UK immediately spotted a potential problem with just the online instruction manual to go on. Didn't even try it. The researchers feared that a design flow could allow someone to use the chatter to eavesdrop. So
Ah,
they're thinking that if you have it in the room, people can eavesdrop on you. I don't know if it's from a what are you grinning about?
I was going to say,
No, Gal, what are
yeah.
you
I'm just thinking about this. This is like
what?
this this is our world today.
Yeah,
Somebody comes up with an idea, right? And it's a cool idea. It's
yeah,
fun. But nobody pays the extra buck because it is expensive, right?
yeah.
To get an actual security open-minded person, right? So they need to be one, very paranoid, two, very open-minded, right? To take a look at this and see how is this going to hurt me technology wise. I'm putting a piece of technology,
Then
wireless activity, right? And a toy company, why would they do that? Right? They don't even think about the possibility of that. Now here they send it out to the world, and one we are hearing here about one guy, right?
yeah.
And I mean he might have done it anyway, right? But they needed to find that one guy that thinks that way, right? So even if they did consult some security company, they still miss that, right? And now this isn't something that you can go and plug and update, and right. And so that one guy in the crowd and says, "Excuse me, excuse me," right? It's like, just make sure you don't put any batteries in that. So,
Well, it's kind of like when you hear a story about a exploit that gets everybody all upset, and you realize that the circumstances in which it would work are so narrow. You have to do this while standing on your head by looking at the moon and plugging it, and you find out that, well, nobody would ever at home would ever do this. This is so out there weird that it. So this could be. What's the range of Bluetooth realistically?
The-
about 30 feet.
Yeah, max. I mean that without it and with no
That's
obstruction. Right?
ideal.
I
Yeah.
walk. I have Bluetooth headphones that I wear when I watch television. I walk in the garage and cut off, and that's 15 feet away because of the wall.
Mhm.
So, so what you would have to have somebody outside, like a window to your house, trying to pair with this in order to use it to surveillance. It's
But
it's like,
but he's talking about using the phone you call, right, to eavesdrop on what's going on.
what do you mean?
Hmm.
The
There-
phone you call.
What would happen if we called the phone connected to the chatter? Sure enough, the chatter rang loudly as expected. Then we called the chatter again, this time without properly replacing its receiver. With the handset of the hook, the chatter automatically answers the call. So he's talking
Oh,
about a very
okay. I see what you
yeah,
mean. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very basic case, right? This is butt dialing, but the opposite of butt dialing, basically, right? So
So it
uh,
just makes it auto answer. That's all it does.
yeah, exactly. And that's the default setting, and that's so right. It's a problem. So this specific one, when why was it different than the situation? First of all, you're right. Most of the exploit we're hearing about, they're usually very very hard to achieve, right? I mean, do you remember what caused everyone to ditch SHA, or was that not SHA? One of the MD5. What caused everybody to ditch MD5 and switch to SHA? Because there is a flaw in the algorithmic design, right? But to be able to use that flaw to your advantage, you need you need the stars to align in such a perfect way, right? And I agree with you. Most exploits are that way. But what we've been seeing lately, right? I wasn't last week, but I'm sure you talked about Log4j, right? Log4j is not only it's not a small breach. It's huge. It's like mind-blowing huge. This is like more than we've ever seen. And this simple thing, the guy just by looking at the instructions figured it out. It's not like he had to even play with the phone to say, hey, look. So something, it's like there's this dropping of the ball that's happening a lot. I don't know. It's an interesting times, like the Chinese verse.
May you live in interesting times. Well,
Yeah.
somebody, whoever wished that on all of us, it's happening.
It's all right.
Oh no, it makes it interesting. That's for sure. But
We wouldn't have a show if it wasn't an interest.
yeah. So if you guys are okay with this, I'd like to do the specials because I need to skedaddle pretty soon.
No,
No, I can't. I gotta wait.
gotta wait.
Yeah, I'm heading down to Atlanta to visit my brother-in-law for a couple of days. Haven't seen him in a while. This is a window of opportunity.
Ta-da!
Ta-da, there we go. So it's the aftermath. And I literally have a house like this one you see in the picture here in our neighborhood.
Really?
Where they have like 30 inflatables. And you drive by there during the day and they're all laying flat. And there's only one that stays on because it's an archway over the walkway going up to their front door. So they can't turn it off because it would block their doorway. But it literally looks like this, just piles of inflatables. You know what's fun is to go by there when they come on. And they all start to, you take a little kid there and park them out front and wait for that to go on. You just scare the crap out of them. All this thing coming up out of the ground. It'd be pretty fun. But
it does look like an abandoned. We have a
yeah,
house
it
like
does.
that.
It does.
Yeah,
Like
There's
a street
lot
in
of stuff here.
a street in San Francisco.
Yeah. Mm. Wow. And there's Santa. He's having it the morning after. And there was a caption on the little girl with the peas there. Or the caption was, "But I just wanted something from Frozen." You know, the movie, the kids movie, and she got a bag of frozen peas. Oh well. All right. So this is an abbreviated version of the specials, but I did go out and just look for, say, okay, after Christmas specials. So right away, Amazon came up with, and they're having huge sales. Just go and look through pages and pages and pages of things that are on sale. But from a tech perspective, storage. These are deal of the day, so they're only for today. But if you act quickly, Western Digital Black 5 terabyte portable external hard drive for $99. Normally $149. Got a SanDisk 512 Extreme Micro SD card, $68, and that's normally $129. Got a 1 terabyte Ultra Micro SD card from SanDisk for $109, normally $199, so it's $90 off. And here, Gal, here's the latest Western Digital drive for you to take apart and use the drive. 18 terabyte desktop external drive. 18.
I bought 14 terabyte 2 weeks ago. And I think I paid the same. Let me check.
Yeah, incredible. There's $299 normal. The list price. They're not saying normal price. List price is $539. Wow. 18 terabytes on a single 3.5-inch form factor.
The last hard drives you'll ever need.
Yeah, according to Bill Gates.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
No, I paid less. I paid $200
for 14. Wow.
Or
that was
14.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
You're good. Good. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of have to turn that part of my brain off because I'm always finding I think I got a great deal and it's always something better. Um, all right. So if you're into the Echo Show 5, second generation 2021 release, smart display with Alexa 2 megapixel camera, 44.99. So $40 off the regular price from Amazon. If you there's a couple of what is that?
Sorry. You're
Oh, it's
hearing
okay.
it.
I
It's a
don't know.
ringtone. Not me ringing.
Heard it on your end? That's not good.
Not me. I haven't gotten any
No, it
Mm,
way
was
to
on
have
my
take an
end.
incoming.
It was on my end, but it
Oh,
you should have gone through yours, so I don't know why. Okay.
we've got a Lenovo Ideapad 14-inch Ryzen 5, 8 gig, 256 SSD, Windows 11 for $479, which is normally $609. And this next lock, this was intriguing. I actually read about this. And this is a great deal. This is not a deadbolt. This is a lock handle where you open the door to go in. So it probably has more applications because of that, because it's not a deadbolt. You wouldn't use something like this you would use something like this inside your house on a regular door. You want to limit access to a room somehow. But this is designed, this Sifley, I guess is the name of the company, Sifley Smart Lock. This does what you'd expect: basic key code, it's Wi-Fi, it's got a thumbprint reader, but it also is centrally managed. If you use the hub that they have, you can use software to manage, like if you have a business where you have a motel, for example, you want to use these locks, or a bunch of rental properties that you for Airbnb, you can manage them all remotely using this tool, this software. So for 106, it's normally 199. This is an amazing product. You can use key fobs, you can use fingerprint, you can use touch codes, and you can use a key to open this door. And so if you want to create a key that's good for a certain period of time, for a single guest, whatever it is, this is amazing. And the price is, if it's a good lock, it's amazing. So I put it there. It's worth evaluating. Its normal price isn't that bad. It's 199, but it's on sale for 106. And I thought there are probably companies that could use this internally in their buildings. They don't need a deadbolt on the door. I just want to restrict access casually. I mean, anybody wants to get in there, they can get in. But you have a closet that's got valuables in it. You have it in your home. If you have, I don't know, I knew someone who had to put locks on the doors inside their house because of an issue with other people that lived in the house. And this would be a way to do that and restrict access without
Why
a
don't you
key.
think it'll be good for an external door?
Oh, no, I said I think it would be good
Oh,
for
okay.
external door. It would be good for an external door too, but it's not a deadbolt. That's what you just need people to understand, that it's a lot of cases where there are doors with deadbolts, like on my house and many of the houses that I in my neighborhood, is there's only one lock. It's the deadbolt. There's the handle below it is just the latch, doesn't lock. It's a handle that you press the button on and it opens the door, and that's what holds the door closed. The deadbolt is what secures the door. So there aren't two locking entities on the door. So this would be now this with the form factor. I
Okay,
don't know
I
that
see
this
what
would
you mean.
work with a deadbolt because of see how tall it is. It may be that the deadbolt above it, if there's a deadbolt above it, it might be too close. I don't know. I
Yeah, I
didn't
see,
look
I
at the
see.
measurements, but this is still a fascinating,
mhm.
um, fascinating product. So that all that stuff is at Amazon. I put the direct link in here to this product. The other ones you can go search on. And then at Best Buy, they've got some good sales going on. HP 15.6-inch touchscreen Ryzen 3 laptop for $369 was $489. Asus VivoBook 15.6 i3 for $389, 60 off. They've got this is the first laptop I've seen. Has this been around for a while? Alexa built into a laptop?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. And I was like, oh, that's something new. I don't know the value of it, but
Yeah.
something new. Why do you already have?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
You already have Cortana, right? Why couldn't they just run software?
Well, Cortana is dead.
Oh, it is dead? Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
Cortana is being removed. I think they didn't even put it in Windows 11. So yeah,
Well, good, because it was useless.
And there was a story that some people at Microsoft wanted to call Cortana Bingo.
Bingo?
well, that was a story about Steve Ballmer's last act. Was
Oh,
he tried calling the product Bingo?
okay.
Interesting.
It was
So you
more of
couldn't-
a. It was more of a jab at what's his name, Ballmer. Yeah, I said
Interesting.
Job. Sorry, Ballmer. Yeah.
So HP 14-inch laptop Core i5 with Alexa built in for $599. And we've got a PNY 500 gig SSD for $45.99. That's not a big sale, $56.99 regular price. SanDisk Extreme Pro 1 terabyte PCIe internal solid state drive for $129 was $449, $320 off. What's wrong with it? Just one of those ones that was marketed as the wrong.
When was it 449? That's the question.
That's the question. Yeah, I don't know. But these are also, they have the 1 gigabyte, 500 and 2 gigabyte versions. This is the 1 gigabyte versions. Prices vary.
It's because it's 3D, and
Yeah, that's it.
it's not 2D. Yeah.
It's three-dimensional.
That's
data.
okay. Spence can use it. He's got a 3D.
You have to wear those glasses though when you use it.
Yeah,
Otherwise you
exactly.
can't. Yeah, it just looks very flat. And finally, a Samsung 4 terabyte SSD for $349, normally $429. And they have the 1,
Interesting.
2,
The 4
4, and
terabyte
8.
normally is $50. It's $20 less than the 1 terabyte.
Yeah, regular price. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. So it's abbreviated. I mean, but it is some stuff out there. So, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. You said it.
Okay, I did. And with that, guys, it's 10:07. I'm gonna take off. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. I hope you're have a good aftermath from the
Have-
holidays as we move into anticipation of next year. I'll be back on Thursday.
Have a safe
But,
trip.
yeah, I won't be.
So
Not going to be in outer space, so I'll contactable. I could be
when
in
are you
outer space.
planning to stand in line in the return aisle? That's the next big holiday thing, right?
That's it. I'm not. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Most of I tell you, all the gifts that I got, I'm pretty sure were ordered on Amazon, so they'd be sent in boxes anyway.
Okay, so UPS are gonna make a line.
That's it. They're going to have
at
to.
the
Yeah,
door.
I'm gonna have to get the queue going. I did get. My
I-
son
I-
gave me 2 new Wise products. One is a 4-pack of programmable bulbs. I'm pretty sure I'm going to standardize on Wise going forward on most things that I get. And he gave me the Pro version of the LED strip. They have the standard version of Pro version. Pro version is fully programmable, chasing different colors, all different sound. It responds to sounds and all that stuff. He gave me the Pro version of that, and I played around with that last night.
Well,
Fascinating.
definitely take a look at Home Assistant to hook everything together.
I'm glad. You know what? Just was talking to Amnon about an article I read this past week to say that if you're relying on the cloud to do everything for you, you really need to rethink that.
Don't.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because everything you do is like, oh yeah, I got to look at my app. I can check my this at home. Well, if the cloud goes down, what Wise was down for a couple of days because of the Amazon outage. And it took them. Well, it wasn't they weren't down for a couple of days. They were down for a couple of hours, but it took them a couple of days to get everything back to normal. So I lost control of my doorbell. The other stuff all came up. Other stuff came up okay. The doorbell, you have to turn the power off at the circuit breaker to restart it. If you can't communicate with it, the only way to do it, you have to know which one. And I actually had it marked in my circuit breaker panel, thank goodness, to say, which circuit breaker powered the doorbell so I could restart it because I couldn't, it worked. You could still, um, it was still sensing, but the cloud wasn't working, so I couldn't.
It wasn't communicating to Wi-Fi.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yesterday,
You need
interesting.
to reconnect. Yeah. Damn.
yesterday, like I said, Katie was here and she was telling me about a situation that she had with her thermostat, that there was a power glitch, kind of like it goes in and out, in and out, in and out a couple of times.
Oh,
And she said the screen was blank on the
oh
monitor.
no.
On
Did
the
it fry it?
she she called her dad and stuff, and he was out of town, and it was like a 2-day thing, and it wasn't working right. Oh, it wasn't working, and then she was googling more and more, and she found an article that said that what you have to do is pull the thermostat out of the wall,
The
unplug
crowbar?
it, unplug it, then go to the panel and turn off the breaker
Furnace.
for the AC.
Yeah.
Leave it
Ooh,
off for about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Turn it.
30 seconds probably.
No, 30 minutes. It was for a
Really?
long, yeah.
Wow.
And turn it back on and then plug the thermostat in. And she said, yep, everything came back.
Do you remember what kind of thermostat it was?
And no.
No. Interesting. Be
But it's
interesting to know.
interesting. I mean, if a technician would come over, they would probably say, hey, you need a new.
Wouldn't it be easier just to take out the thermostat
I
without?
don't know. That's the instructions that
It's
she saw
Sounds
Yeah.
and
like
she
this
followed.
was a kind of a generic thing, I think, that would work with any system. Because there are some
Yeah.
systems, maybe they have a 30-minute non-volatile memory that will hold things for a power outage, for example. And they were just accounting
So
for that.
weird.
There
Yeah.
was a neighbor of mine had a issue with their thermostat. And it turns out that the system, when they bought it 10 years ago, was a brand new kind of thermostat that only worked on 3 wires. Right. This is not a standard thermostat.
Mhm.
It was because it had a network connection to the furnace. Right. Not
Ooh.
it could not be replaced with a standard thermostat. $550 to
Sheesh.
replace the thermostat. That's the cost of the product, not even the labor.
Yeah. Yeah.
$550 because it was like this brand new innovation. Oh, we can communicate with the system board in the furnace and you can run diagnostic tests. It's great. It's great. It does all these things. No, I mean, we replaced it, but I had when they put the system in downstairs, I got a new thermostat. It's not the one I wanted. I had an idea I was going to replace it with something else. I still have it. It's got an Ethernet connection on the back of it, a physical wired Ethernet connection. So that's a great idea because then you can run a cable down to your furnace and plug that in too, and you got your own little network.
Yeah, but
Oh
you're
well,
limited in
you're
what you can
limited, but I
use.
mean, it was a Wi-Fi thermostat too.
Yeah.
I could pull up the weather maps and all this stuff. I said, "Oh, my thermostat. That's really nice, but is it necessary?"
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. All right, Spence, don't want to
All right,
hold you.
take care, guys. Have fun. Be
Yep.
safe.
Again,
We'll see you.
you be
All right.
safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So I was going to ask you, have you been doing work on the Plex server, on my Plex server? Doing
Not
anything?
recently.
I mean,
Not
no, in the
recently.
last few days.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Uh,
I think before I left for the weekend last week, maybe I did an upgrade, but that's it. What happened?
it just needs to be rebooted twice. The last. It
It
was
said that, or it stopped working. You
no, it
rebooted it and
stopped. It
things
stopped
worked.
working, and I don't know. I mean, I tried the third time. I just left it when I switched channels, and it took almost maybe 2-3 minutes, and it populated.
Interesting.
And I said, "Well, Gal may be doing. It's
Nope,
fine."
wasn't me.
Hmm,
Wasn't me.
okay. Oh,
It
I don't
wasn't
know
me.
what to do.
It wasn't me.
So yeah, Spence was talking about the outage at Amazon. So Amazon's crucial web service business, AWS, was experiencing problems on last Wednesday, with issues affecting services like Slack, ImageUR, and the Epic Games store.
Hmm.
It's not looking good if you're working from home, with some Slack users unable to view or upload images, and work management tool Asana also hit by the outage. In
Yeah.
an incident update, Slack said its services are experiencing issues with file upload, message editing, and other services. Sana said the problem constitutes a major outage, with many of our users unable to access Asana. Epic Games Store said internet services outages are affecting logins, library, purchases, etc. It's the third time in as many weeks that problems with AWS have had a significant effect on online service. I think they need to upgrade their machine. No,
Pff, did the did anything come out about why it
they
happened?
didn't.
Like what caused
They
it?
were not saying. It must be DNS.
Interesting.
The DNS, you know.
I think there was some discussion about that, and it wasn't DNS. Obviously, DNS was affected, but it wasn't DNS. Um, but I mean, they're a public company, so I think they don't have a choice, right? They will eventually reveal what happened.
Oh yeah, I mean, sooner or later we'll find out. So if you're a on hub branded router from Google, let me just before Google Wi-Fi was announced alongside the original Pixel phone, Google a year earlier released on hub branded routers. They called it on hub branded from Asus and TP-Link. Now in late 2022, Google will end support for on-hub routers that will be 7 years old at the time. So 7 years after they introduced them, they are going to stop supporting them. 7 years is a long. It's
It
6.
is a long time, but still,
Well,
show me a piece of hardware that just stops to work
right,
someday.
there's no such thing, right? But
Yeah,
with security, it's just like up to the
yeah, yeah.
user. So at 6 years old currently, Google said, a lot has changed in the router landscape, and that will end support, and that it will end support for them on December 19th, 2022. This is according to emails that customers via Droid Life have been receiving and a new support document. Until that date, your own hub router will continue to work as normal, but without security updates or new software features. The last combined on hub and Google Wi Fi update came in October of 2019, while Google and Nest Wi Fi have had several OTAs since then. That said, a year later, the Google Home app added support for managing on-hub hardware ahead of the Google Wi-Fi companion client getting deprecated. Google recommends you upgrade to a new Wi-Fi setup today and email the 40% off Nest Wi-Fi offers to existing on-hub router users that will be available until March 31st, 2022. After December 19th next year, the on-hub routers will continue to provide a Wi-Fi signal, but no longer be manageable through the Google Home app, which is the downside of routers that are entirely managed via the cloud/companion app and do not offer local controls. While on-hub routers will continue to work and not disrupt existing network, Google's decision to remove the ability to change basic settings is quite aggressive. Hopefully, the 2016 Google Wi-Fi will see a longer support period. So they came with something 2016, the Wi-Fi. They're not doing away with their Wi-Fi, they're doing away with their own hub routers.
Yeah, and their application for it and
Yeah.
stuff because it was controlled by a mobile application.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're not
yeah.
using that, are you?
No, no. I've never bought hardware from a software company. So it seems like they're treating their hardware like they're treating software. So one interesting thing though is so this is the article I think was Droid Life, right? That's like an Android enthusiast site.
No, they said that they got their notice.
They got an email.
Yeah,
they got
through.
an email, and the article you were reading was. I found it interesting that the article isn't mentioning, let's say, there's an alternative firmware that the community is developing or something like. They didn't mention an alternative.
Of course,
And
they want to sell you something new.
But Droid Left isn't selling anything. Droid
No,
Left
no,
is
they're
selling
trying to sell you
advertising.
They're trying to sell you
Right.
Nest.
Again, Droid Life, they're not selling Nest. They're selling advertisement. They're not. I'm talking about the news outlet. Droid Life.
Okay. No, I'm talking about
Yeah.
Google.
So I find it interesting that like, I mean, I know that if my TP-Link, when I buy a TP-Link router, right, I'm expecting firmware updates to last 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that after that, I'm not going to get anything. But I do know that if I flash out the original firmware, there's some open source software out there that I can probably flash on it, and I get all of the security updates and all of that from the community. Right. And here comes this very do no evil company, right? Which we all love to hate. And it's closed down, right? It's closed down. It's like the community isn't invited to join the party. And that is a problem. That is a problem.
Yeah.
So I'll prefer the Chinese manufacturer who at least offers me the option, right, of rolling my own. With their understanding, they are not a software company. They are a hardware company.
Yeah, they would rather.
I think that is probably. What's that?
I would think that they would rather have you flash their hardware with something else, and then whatever happens is not there. They don't need to support it anymore.
Exactly. It's like we made the hardware.
Yeah.
We might be a very good software company, but I don't know. It's something. Everything about these locked bootloaders, this locked, you cannot do anything in this machine other than what I allow. When you enter that realm, you are treating your users as idiots, and that is probably what I hate most. Right? I mean, Microsoft is far from being perfect, but at least with Microsoft, right? I never bought a machine that said, "Hey, you can only boot Microsoft on this." I didn't need to do extra impossible work to put a Linux system on it. I mean, compared to a MacBook or an iPhone, right? Now, when you go to the manufacturers who make Android machines, there are a lot, and Google was one of the only ones who said, "Not a problem. We'll have a switch for you that says you can unlock the bootloader, right, and put anything that you want on it." And we love developers. Go in, do it, right? But on their other hardware, they were never that way. Not with Nest, not with even the first router that they ever came out with. So it's sad. I think it's a sad state of affair in for them. It's they're showing they're putting on a facade like Apple of we know best, and the moment you do that, you turn people like me off. So
Oh, well, I'm sure
yeah.
there's going to be a lot of pissed off people too. Never mind turned off,
Uh,
but pissed off.
I don't think about a lot because I don't think a lot of people actually bought that router. But yeah,
No, no.
remember, they came out with like a 200 or 300 router when it would be equivalent to the 60 to $120 router, right? So they were always their hardware is always more expensive and more high end crap.
No. Here is something else. The UK National Crime Agency has shared a collection of more than 585 million compromised passwords it found during an investigation with Have I Been Pwned, a website that indexes data from security breaches. The NCA now becomes the second law enforcement agency to officially supply Have I Been Pwned with hacked password after the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation began a similar collaboration with the service back in May. In a blog post last week, Troy Hunt, Have I Been Pwned creator Troy Hunt, said that 225 million of the compromised passwords found by the NCA were new and unique. These passwords have been added to a section of the HIBP website called Pawned Password. This section allows companies and system administrators to check and see if their current passwords have been compromised in hacks and if they are likely to be part of public lists used by threat actors in brute force and password spraying attacks. Currently, the HIBP pawned passwords collection includes 5.5 billion entries, of which 847 million are unique. All these passwords are also available as a free download so companies can check their passwords against the data set locally without connecting to Hunt's service. I thought
Just
that
beware, it's a 17.2 gigabyte file.
Sheesh. I thought that was part of Firefox. It was that Have I Been Pwned was built into
But
Firefox.
Firefox, let's put it this way: a lot of password managers,
Yeah.
right, and some are baked into browsers. They have there's an API call that they do to Have I Been Pawned, and they check whether the credentials are compromised or not. So you log into to a site, right? The browser itself, it knows the credentials.
Mm-hmm.
It calculates the hash, sends the hash over, and Have I Been Pawned responds whether that hash is a compromised one or not. So there's not even a transfer of the password itself. So it's very safe compared to, I mean, Have I Been Pawned is a very, very, very fascinating piece of technology and service. And it only works as long as that guy, Troy,
Troy.
you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Troy Hunt.
As long he's the man running it. The moment it'll change hands, if it'll ever change hands, right? That's when people are going to stop relying on this service. It's like they're going to stop trusting it. It's only because of that person. He's been a security advocate for decades now, and he has the highest standards of ethics in this industry. So if he turns bad, right, this industry is completely screwed. um,
Did you ever
he-
download the list?
no. I mean, I don't see a point. What I do have is, because I have uh, I have a mail domain for my family.
Mm-hmm.
I do have my domain registered there, and if there's a breach with an email in my domain, then I'll get a notification.
Oh,
Yeah, that much they provide that. They send an email if to an admin. There's a authentication process where they validate you are the owner of the domain,
mm-hmm.
and once you go through that, there's like a certain DNS handshake, uh, and once you do that, once you prove that this is your domain, then you can get a notification whether your domain is hacked or not. I mean, a few of the accounts are definitely have been exposed, right? And um, I mean, I use my family, my close family. They all use a password manager. So, and I train them to have a new password for every new service they use.
Mm-hmm.
Never reuse a password. So that helps a lot, because when you get hit with a notification of a breach, then okay, so that account has been compromised,
Right.
but there is no access to anything else. Right.
That same
So
password is not being used somewhere else.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very important.
It's interesting what they said, that they found like a stash of a few million unique entries, right?
Well, yeah, they said
It
that
is,
847 of them are unique. Now, this is not. This is probably over some time.
of
They don't
course. I
say
mean,
when
when you
they
think
found
about
it.
it, when you think about being able to download, right, the um, um, a 17.2 gigabytes file of breached passwords, that is definitely going to be across a long period of time.
Yeah.
If you look at there's I think at the homepage there's a list of breaches, right? I mean, the list is huge.
Well, that's what happens.
Only in his database there are 570 websites that have been pawned, right? And the number of accounts is at the billion number,
Mm-hmm.
11 billion. So it's nuts. It's not.
Yeah. So if you want to find out, you can just go to haveibeenpawned.com
Yeah.
and
It's HAVEI BEEN pawned PWNED.com. Have I been pawned? Also in the chat.
yep, and you can find
And
out
if you're interested more about the project, read Troy Hunt's blog. It is an interesting read. He's a very interesting. He has a very interesting view of the world. So, and he's acting. to make it better. So it's very interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
No, are we done with talking about?
I'm done.
Oh. So here's something else. A security researcher says an internet gateway used by hundreds of hotels to offer and manage their guest Wi Fi network has vulnerabilities that could put the personal information of their guests at risk. Atizaz Mohsen told TechCrunch that the Air Angel HSMX gateway, Air Angel HSMX, contain hard coded passwords that are extremely easy to guess. With those passwords, which we're not publishing, an attacker could remotely gain access to the gateway's settings and databases, which store records about the guest using the Wi Fi. With that access, an attacker could access and exfiltrate guest records or configure the gateway networking settings to unwittingly redirect guests to malicious web pages. He said that back in 2018, he discovered one of these gateways on the network of a hotel where he was staying. He found that the gateway was synchronizing files from other server across the internet, which he said contain hundreds of gateway backup files from some of the most prestigious and expensive hotels in the world. The server also stored millions of guest names, email addresses, and arrival and departure dates. He reported the bug, and the server was secured. But that sparked a thought. Could this one gateway have other vulnerabilities that could put hundreds of other hotels at risk? In the end, the security researcher found 5 vulnerabilities that he said could compromise the gateway, including guests' information. So, why would they have easy to guess passwords hard coded? Why? I don't.
Why?
I mean, I really don't think that even those home routers that we used to get, and the password is 0000 or 1234, and then they said you need to change it. Why have anything? Why not come up and say, okay, now you need to put the password?
I'm taking you back a month ago.
Yeah.
You read an article about a law saying
Yeah.
that
No more.
default password should no longer exist.
Correct.
Right. That is exactly why.
Yeah, I know.
because it's easy to put a default password, and the main reason you put a default password as a developer is because during development you want to type something that's
Right.
really easy on you, right?
Yeah.
But it should never leak to production. It should
Right.
never pass
Absolutely.
on. But I mean, we know of backdoors, right? Do you remember the 80s movie War Games?
Yeah. Right.
It was about a backdoor.
Yeah.
The backdoor is a staple of modern development of security. It has always been there, and as long as developers are going to use it, we'll keep on seeing it creep up. It's going to be there. Now, I don't want to say to be fair, because there's nothing fair about this, right? Something in the architecture seems so flawed of this gateway, but the hardware has stopped being produced in 2018. So this is exactly tying us back to that Google article, right? About this is abandonware, they're not planning on even touching this, right? This is a hardware company dealing with software issues, and there's no patch, and there's uh, because of the design. Now think about it. Everything is tied. You go from one hotel and you see another chain's information, right? Something is really, really flawed in the design of it. So you can't even make it open. You can't allow a hotel to hire a security expert to create a different set of tools on it, right? So they're screwed, whoever's using it, and they need to replace everything because the company isn't going to back that up.
But
So yeah, it is. It's
I'm
a sad
wondering
state of.
if I'm wondering if newer hardware companies are still
Well,
doing this. I mean, remember, there's no law that says that you can't. It was proposed,
yeah.
but I mean, anybody in their right mind that develops hardware like that. I mean, come on, you guys.
Look, we are a lot smarter today than we were in 2018. We're a lot
Hopefully,
smarter today than we were in 2000 when it comes to how security runs.
yeah.
But if a hotel goes in and buys this equipment and they don't have a security team of their own, right? There's nobody to ask these questions. And so the only competition is about, the ease of deployment and how cheap it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. No.
So
I.
as long as we're living in that world, then security breaches will happen. The moment you add, and is it secure to the question, right? That's when you start doing more informed conversation about these products. And that's when the market starts changing because the customer is suddenly the one asking about security and not the security expert
Yeah,
asking about the security. So
yeah. And if the customer is asking that question and they're not buying your product because of
think about
this,
this. Going back to the toy, the phone toy, right?
yeah,
Going back to that. If the parent buying the toy is going to ask, is this secure enough, right? First of all, it's going to create a new trend. Every new toy won't only say plus 3 years, it'll say also secure, even when it's
uh,
irrelevant,
yeah.
right? Like GMO free, right?
GMO
So
free
that's the
router.
first thing we're gonna see. We're gonna
Yeah,
see these stupid stickers and stupid. It won't be as seen on TV, but it'll see as patched
yeah.
by this and this. So this is one of the trends that we're going to see. Security is going to take on a much larger role in the conversation. A lot of people are not going to understand it, right? This is CDC vaccine talk all over again, right? It's going to be people talking about things that they do not understand and deciding because the loudest voice they heard was about something, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we are not a loud voice. We are a very, very, very thin voice in a very huge
Mhm.
crowd. So, uh, so everything, all of the conversation about security is going to be all over the place. One thing for sure is because this conversation is going to happen, things are going to be more secure. They are getting more and more and more secure. I mean, hell, we're getting to legislation level secure, right? Uh, Politics is starting to be about how secure things are. So we'll get there eventually, but we're just at the beginning.
Hopefully. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, have I been pawned, right?
Mm.
A database like that, that should be a government entity,
Absolutely.
right? Now, I'm not saying we would trust it more. I trust it a lot more right now, the way it's running, but
Yeah.
it is running on donations, right? It is running on grants. This is definitely not a government entity, right? And it should be. And it should be a world government entity. It's right, not just a local one
Mhm.
run by, but we're not there yet.
Should be. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like there are other problems with security. Microsoft has notified earlier this month, a select group of Azure customers impacted by a recently discovered bug that exposed the source code of their Azure web apps since at least September 2017. They just informed them. The vulnerability was discovered by cloud security firm Wiz and reported to Microsoft in September. The issue was fixed in November, and Microsoft has spent the last few weeks investigating how many customers were impacted. The issue, named Not Legit, resides in Azure App Service, a feature of Azure Cloud that allows customers to deploy websites and web apps from a source code repository. Wiz researchers said that in situations where Azure customers selected the local Git option to deploy their website from a Git repository hosted on the same Azure server, the source code was also exposed online. All PHP, Node, Ruby, and Python applications deployed via this method were impacted. Microsoft said that's what Microsoft says.
No, I understand the problem. Okay.
Only apps.
Wow.
Only apps deployed by Linux-based Azure servers were impacted, but not those hosted on Windows Server system. So yeah, they're getting into the nitty-gritty here, which is
okay. I'll try to mansplain it a bit.
mansplain it.
So you all know GitHub, right?
Yeah.
And GitHub is an open source repository host, and it works with Git, which is a way to manage source code, source code versioning, and when you when you run a website, for example, you write the code usually on some machine at your office or somewhere, and then you deploy it to another server, right? That will serve the information. In this case, the servers are on Azure.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do a deployment that just pushes the source code over, or you can have a Git copy on that server, pull it there, and whatever you have there, right, is serving. And my guess is most of the sites will actually be that, than compared to just pushing it without a local Git repository. Git is a distributed source control method, and so it's a lot easier to work locally with it with a copy. And it makes a lot of sense in the workflow. Now, the problem is that these websites, this web interface, right? You all know how a website address works, right? We have the host name, and then we have a path that that we enter, and that points to some sort of file that the web server serves us. And if that path exposes the .git location, that means you have access to the entire Git repository.
Right.
And that means that somebody crafty enough can find a way of downloading that Git repository and basically gaining access to the complete code of the website, including everything that is on, including history of it. So even if, for example, a website, a web developer sometime in the past had a hard-coded password in the code, right? Something you shouldn't do, but you can accidentally have that done, and then on the next, it's called a commit. Every time you commit, you change, but the whole history,
Right.
you change the code, but the whole history of it is preserved.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go back in time and you can find that spot, that mistake, right? That was that had the password in it. So the breach is not only about lost uh, lost extended access to the source code. It's also there might be access to some very, very, very uh, uh, to what's called software secrets that
Very
are
sensitive.
like passwords,
Yeah.
API codes, and stuff like that. That can allow an attacker then to impersonate from another endpoint to another system. This is huge. This is even bigger than Log4j. This is like huge. Log4j is huge because it is almost everywhere, right? That component is almost everywhere, but it's also behind a firewall. It's something. This means that whoever had access, and if this has been going through 2017, and if since 2017 this has been at least used once or twice on certain important sites,
Mhm.
right? This is
That's enough.
major
Yeah.
because even after closing it now, right, trying to figure out what has been exposed is a nightmare. And I'm not sure that everybody in all of Microsoft's customers who are using Azure that have been exposed to it are will act quick enough. So this is major.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. So you see, I mean, these are, and you can't say that Microsoft doesn't have a security team that looks
No,
at these
no.
things. It's just things that you don't think about. And
That's the thing,
it's,
right? It's about wow, this is I mean, even the patch is child's play. The patch is really ridiculous. It just says if I see a .git request, then don't allow it. It's very,
Mhm.
very basic. Yeah, and so that also means that it was easy for them to deploy. I would wonder how much it breaks things now,
Yeah.
and the workarounds that people are going to do because it breaks something. uh, This is a nightmare. This is a real nightmare.
You don't support anything that is on Azure.
I my the products we work with are there are things that are hosted on Azure, but
Oh,
not our software.
oh.
So yeah.
All right. Here's another interesting article about Amazon. Each holiday season since 2015, Amazon.com has counted on selling a lot of Alexa voice controlled smart speakers. For almost as long, it's known that the devices have had trouble holding customers' attention even into January. According to internal data, there have been years when 15% to 25% of new Alexa users were no longer active in their second week with the device. Concerns about user retention and engagement comes up repeatedly in internal planning documents that Bloomberg Newsweek Business Week reviewed. The documents, which cover 2018 to 2021, detail Amazon's continued ambitions for Alexa, including plans to add more cameras and sensors that would allow devices to recognize different voices or determine which rooms users are in during each interaction. They also reveal the roadblocks the company sees to realizing these goals. Last year, Amazon's internal analysis of the smart speaker market determined it had passed its growth phase and estimates it would expand only 1.2% annually for the next several years. So Amazon is saying that only 15 to 25% of new users, no, that 15 to 25 of new users no longer active, meaning you get one, you set it up, and you use it a lot, and you do all kind of stuff with it, and 2 weeks later,
Then you stop.
and that's it. You say, okay, I had enough.
Look,
Isn't that interesting?
I've, I don't see. So I use. It's no secret. I use right. I
Yeah.
have Amazon speakers in every room.
Yep.
Um, but the only use I have for them, right? I think exclusively is to turn on and turn off the lights. I don't do anything else with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all
I
we do.
mean, once in a blue moon, I might ask it to convert a unit or tell me, how many Celsius and Fahrenheit or something like that. But I use it once or twice a year, right, for that functionality.
Yeah.
I don't need most of the time we don't need it. So unless you have a smart home that you control something through it, I don't see the point of having it at home. Now there are those who play music with it, right? I specifically don't because I use Google's service that isn't available on there, right? When I had Spotify, we would use it more. It's like
Okay.
eh, it's all about the usage. So the continuous usage is around music playing and home control. So if you get that, right, then people are using it, but not for what Amazon sold it. Amazon wanted to use these two things, right, to get into your home. And so you'll start actually purchasing stuff through it. You'll start conversing with it a lot more, and they'll be able to sell you more because they'll know what you want.
Didn't pan
I
out.
am glad. I am glad it isn't working their way in that way in that term, right?
Yeah, and
There is
it's
use for them for these two controls, but they don't really care about those two controls. They'll make it work because they know that that's their way into the house. But
mhm.
and that's why they want to track more, because the moment they'll know more about you, at least, then they'll be able to suggest things. If there's one thing I hate about my unit is when I tell it to, I don't know, shut off the light, and it says, "Hey, do you know that I didn't ask for any, right?" So somehow these recommendations, even though I switch them off in the app, they creep in again and again. Some reset or something. It is annoying as hell. I don't want the thing to talk to me. I know what I want out of it. So I'm not I'm not gonna play the violin for them on this one.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, that it's like they're no longer growing. 1.2%. Geez, nothing. And they are
Well, they
trying.
haven't conquered the world yet.
Well, it's going to be tough.
Of course.
Yep.
I think the rest of the world is a bit less gullible than the
Than the
US when it
U.S.
comes to
Yep.
consumership. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. All right. It's that time of day. Anything else we need to talk about?
Um, nope,
I don't have
nothing. I don't
anything.
have anything.
No. Been kind of really. It's been kind of a slow. There were other things that were more.
Well, wait after the holidays.
Yeah. No, that's just long lines. All right. Well, thanks, Gal. And thanks, Spence. Nick, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Nick is in New York visiting family. He told me he was going to be here, but maybe things didn't work out. first picture that he sent was everything is covered with snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was last week, I was in Manhattan, and luckily we had fantastic weather. So
Yeah, I mean, yesterday,
when we
yeah.
left on Sunday, it was a bit cold, but that's it. It's like it was great weather.
Today's supposed to be warmer than yesterday here, right? I think so.
It's supposed to. Yeah.
It's
Close
unbelievable.
to the 70s.
Yeah, nice.
I haven't stepped out yet, so I don't know.
All right. So again, thanks. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Arlington, Micha, Eleanor, Sareed, Trish, I don't see you in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Nick does his show weekly, daily show during the week, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM. You can always listen to the recording of his shows at nickcraig.com. And on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection Podcast on Twitch. So just go to twitch.tv/Infection Podcast, one word, at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you next year, guys.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.